Hello, everyone. Welcome to Episode 8 of Hurd in the House, the official podcast for Colorado's 3rd Congressional District. Today's guest is one of the top leaders in the U.S. House of Representatives, Majority Whip Tom Emmer. He's a former hockey coach, a lawyer, a Minnesotan through and through, husband to Jackie, and father of 7 kids, which is somehow more kids than I have. He's served in the Minnesota legislature, chaired the National Republican Congressional Committee, and now helps steer the entire Republican Congress through some of Congress's toughest fights. Whip Emmer, welcome to Hurd in the House.
Good to be with you, Jeff. Great
Now,
to be with you.
To start off, a lot of people might not actually know what the Majority Whip does. And I have to tell you, the first time you visited Colorado for me back when I was a candidate, I told my daughter that the whip was coming to visit, and she said, well, what does the whip do? And I said, well, I didn't know how to explain it. I said, he's kind of like the enforcer in the house. That's how I described it. And she was 11 years old at the time. She looked at me and she said, Dad, are you in trouble? So for those listening who are wondering the same thing, what do you as a Majority Whip do, and how is it different from other leadership roles?
So it's let me break it down. The first thing is your daughter's not unusual. There are adults that have no idea what it means. They know that it's the title. And I think the older we get, Jeff, the more we think is at risk if we ask, what's a whip? I mean, you don't want to look foolish, so you don't want to ask the question. So I usually tell people whenever I'm introduced as the whip a couple of things. One, people need to understand the Speaker of the House is the number one position, and Mike Johnson is in charge of everything. He's not just in charge of our message and our members, our agenda. He's in charge of the campus, the Capitol complex. He's in charge of all the offices. He's in charge of the Capitol Police. I mean, the list goes on and on. Then you have this number 2 spot is the Majority Leader. That's Steve Scalise, another Louisianan. That's a great job. Because what does Steve do? Steve works with chairs. You're a subcommittee chair, and so you know that as you move something out of your subcommittee and then out of your full committee, Steve is working with the chairs as to when those are ready to come to the floor, and then his office, the Majority Leader. I don't want to make it sound minimal when I say all he does, or simply what he does is he will schedule things for the floor because floor time is finite.
Absolutely.
You don't have all kinds of floor time, so he'll do that. And then the other thing he does, which should come out in about a month, is his office is responsible for giving you and me the calendar for the next year. So we will know when you're going to be at home in Colorado's 3rd District working with your constituents, or when you're going to have to be here in Washington, D.C., voting in session. The whip's job is different from those top 2 because while Mike sets the agenda, while Steve is the one that is scheduling and making sure that it can get to the floor, the number 3 position is the whip, and our job is literally to make sure that it can pass the floor. You're not going to bring things that the membership doesn't agree with. And by the way, we have a lot of disagreements internally. People have different priorities. Some people actually have different values as well. And they're all reflective of the districts, the constituents that they represent at home. So the whip's job, I explained a couple of years back, is literally to be the voice of the members to those top 2 guys. So when Steve is telling Mike at one of our meetings, these things are ready to go, the next question is to the whip, all right, do we have any issues? And obviously, we usually have some issues. So
Sure.
Then the key is how do we go after those? And I'll finish it with this, Jeff. When the members gave me this great privilege of doing this job, it's the best coaching job I've ever had. I tell people this is the job where you have to know every player on the bench. You got to know what they can do, what they can't do, what they will do, what they won't do. And then our job as that voice to the leadership is to try and help the members achieve what they came here to do. Yeah. I ran the campaign operation, which I haven't gone away from. I still, as you know, I do campaigns all across the country. I think when they elected me, they thought they were going to get the hammer because my personality is a little aggressive and a little direct and a little blunt. But
it's also inspiring. It's
Yep.
good. You're good at rallying the troops.
But here's the 2 rules I gave. And if I didn't give them to you, then I screwed up. First rule that I tell everybody for the whip is you take care of your people at home before anything else. Nobody in Washington, D.C. voted for you. You take care of the people that put you here first. Then second, you got to take care of yourself. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be here very long. And some people, as you know, sadly, they misstep and they make mistakes. And you got to stay healthy and you got to stay focused. If you can do those 2 things, we can help you be part of the team.
Yep, that's you put it very well. Now, I know you've coached hockey teams while serving in Congress, and I think you've laced up your skates yourself plenty of times. In leadership, are you more of a player on the ice or are you a coach behind the bench? Or does that depend on the moment?
I would say I'm a player coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't leave the rink. I need the challenge of being in the game. But the coaching part is, I mean, all of us have incredible talents, right? I would like to think mine is listening, believe it or not. I'm talking a lot right now, but because I practiced law for years, and you do this, Jeff. When you take a deposition, you find out words mean things. People will tell you things, if you're listening closely, that they don't realize they're telling you.
Yeah.
And it helps to understand the person that you're working with, because we might have a member who's got a real issue at home and doesn't know quite how to deal with it, right? Well, you got to somehow figure out there's something else going on here, and then figure out how you can help them. So the coaching part of it is really more like a friend and someone who's been there and done that.
Let's talk the shutdown, and let's start with the big picture. Today is day 23 of the Democratic-led government shutdown. Now, the House passed a bill weeks ago to keep the government open, but the Senate hasn't moved. Can you walk us through where things stand right now, and why are we still stuck?
Yeah, look, I'm going to say something that I don't think many people say. I think Jeff Hurd would say it, even though I haven't had this discussion with you directly. Shutdowns don't help anyone. This isn't a Republican-Democrat thing. Democrats should have read the book because Republicans wrote it. This does not work. You do not, from the minority, leverage the American people to try and advance your policy objectives. And that's what they're doing. And the other thing that they have made a mistake with, and I'll get into walking you through from September 19th on, they did this without having an exit strategy. So now they don't quite know what to do. So what happened? September 19th, you and I, the Republicans in the House, passed what is called a clean CR. I think we have to make it clear to everyone who's listening, it was requested by the Democrats. The White House, our members, if they were going to do a continuing resolution, they wanted it to go into next year.
And the continuing resolution is just a law that would keep the government open and funded at the same level.
That's all it is. And the reason we call it clean is because it doesn't change a thing. There's no partisan policy riders in it. There's nothing. It's just a continuation of what we've done. By the way, it's the same thing that Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats and many House Democrats voted for just 6 months ago.
In March, right.
And it's also the same thing that they all voted for 13 times under Joe Biden. So when I say they requested it, what they requested was, 1, send us a clean CR, and 2, we don't want it into next year. We want a short-term CR. So we did a 7-week CR to November 21st. We passed that, you and I, on September 19th. Only one Democrat out of 214 or 215 voted with us. It should have been our first sign that what they had asked us for, something had changed, right? It went over to the Senate well in advance of the September 30th funding deadline. When that funding deadline came, all of a sudden Chuck Schumer got his members to vote no. And why is that important? In the House, as you know, Jeff, we only need a simple majority to move things out, which is why we were able to move that out. In the Senate, they've got this filibuster rule, which people have heard the word filibuster and cloture. Essentially what it is in order to get something to the floor of the Senate, you need 60 votes. If there's any objection whatsoever, they're going to have 60 votes. And I don't want to go into the history of that. That's their rule. but we only have 53 Republicans. So it means that we need 7 Democrats. We lost Rand Paul, so now we need 8 Democrats. We got 3. We still need 5.
When folks back home say, well, how come the government isn't open? Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. The answer is, well, the Senate has this filibuster rule, and we need at least 8 Democrats in this case to join us in passing that clean, continuing resolution that keeps the government open.
That they asked for.
Right.
Yes.
Now, what are some of the concrete effects that folks back home in Minnesota, in my district in Colorado, are dealing with right now because of the shutdown? What are you seeing back in Minnesota's 6th district?
Well, both of us have to be very concerned, even though President Trump, God bless him, he found a way to pay our troops this month. But both you and I, Colorado, Minnesota, have to be very concerned about next month, our troops, our servicemen and women. We've got to be very concerned about 6-figure number. Colorado's the same, of SNAP recipients. Yep. These are people who are trying to make ends meet. These are low income that qualify for food assistance under the SNAP program. Those benefits, if this doesn't get solved by November 1st, are going to be interrupted. In fact, you've got the USDA notifying the states, and you've got states, including yours. And your governor's answer is interesting to me. I worked with Jared. He served here in Congress, but now he wants $10 million to fill the food shelves. How about Jared maybe calls some of his Democrat friends in Washington and say, you're hurting the people in my state. Vote to reopen the government and then do what you're supposed to do, which is then negotiate the real differences that we have and get the government funded. But it's women, infant, and children who rely on nutrition assistance through the WIC program are at risk. And the big one that I think you and I are going to start to see now, it started yesterday, was in the news a little bit more yesterday. You had Newark and Houston experiencing flight delays and some cancellations due to 53% of them, according to Sean Duffy, our transportation secretary, were due to staffing shortages. Yeah. The normal staffing shortage is 5%. So that means people are not coming to work. And look, we're hearing tragic stories about air traffic controllers that were already short 2,000 to 3,000. And by the way, Sean Duffy, President Trump, did an amazing thing. Do you realize they've got a class of air traffic controllers, the best and the brightest, because of the incentives that they created, of 2,000 at the training facility in Oklahoma? Sean was telling me that those guys are actually reconsidering, why am I in this if they're not going to be paying the bills? But the air traffic controllers, we're hearing stories that they work and then they have to go drive for Uber, or they're doing a delivery or dash, whatever it is. You kids all know that stuff. But that's what we're going to see. I think that's the one where you'll start to see it. Everybody will see it, right? Because not everybody has a military service member in their family. Not everybody experiences the need for SNAP or WIC. But everybody is going to understand when you start having major flight delays and cancellations, because Secretary Duffy made it clear. Number one priority is getting people from here to there safely. Right. If they don't think they can do it safely, they're not doing it. So,
and it's completely unnecessary, which is so frustrating. Now, is there a consequence of the shutdown that most Americans might not even be thinking about but should be? The one that comes to mind for me is maybe national security, mission readiness. I mean, it has to psychologically affect our men and women in uniform when they're not sure if they're going to be able to, get paid and pay the car payment or pay the mortgage payment. Are there some implications that maybe people aren't thinking about that are really serious about the shutdown?
A couple of them. One, I'll go off of your military example. Mine is a bigger one having to do with the financial situation we're in this country. When it comes to our servicemen and women, junior enlisted, and in particular junior enlisted who are married with families, this is a huge sacrifice. I mean, you got kids who are deployed overseas, and their spouse is at home taking care of 1, 2, 3, 4 kids, and now they're not going to have money coming in to pay the bills. By the way, I'm going to do some advertising for you because this is one thing about Republicans during the shutdown. You hear this stuff, the rhetoric from people like the old leader who's scared of losing his job in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, saying, well, Republicans have been on vacation for a month. No.
No way.
Jeff Hurd's been working. And anybody who's out there, if you're one of these military families that is being held as leverage by these Democrats in the Senate, call your congressman's office. They can't solve all the problems, but they can help. We've got members who have been contacting utilities. You can't be turning people's power off. We've got
banks,
loans, all the stuff that we're all trying to help. And I know you're doing it in your district. All of our members have been working at home in their district overtime to try and address these. But these are going to be real effects. And the one that nobody's thinking about, this shutdown cost the country $400 million a day. We're already $38 trillion. The news 2 days ago was we just crossed over the $38 trillion debt number, and they've shut us down for what? And it's $400 million a day. We got enough trouble trying to spread the limited resources that we have. Again, this is why I said it's no one wins in a shutdown.
I agree. And there are a lot of big issues that we need to tackle, one of which in Colorado's 3rd District is healthcare and the cost of healthcare. Every day that's going by in this shutdown is another day that we're not able to get back to the work that we need to do and keeping those healthcare costs low. I'm on legislation that would temporarily look at expanding the enhanced premium tax credits. We need to be having that discussion. They're really important, but we need to have it in the discussion of a government that is open and functioning.
Right.
So.
And we got to be honest with ourselves, right? I think the Obamacare thing got way too partisan. You know, it was us versus them. And let's strip away the name of that program, that law, and let's recognize that since that was enacted, premiums have skyrocketed. Yep. The cost of insurance has skyrocketed. Your premiums are up 25% just because of how they reversed the risk analysis, right? It used to be in Minnesota, we could put people who needed it, pre-existing conditions, etc., in a high-risk pool. And then we could figure out how to subsidize the high-risk pool to get their premiums to a level that are affordable, while the 40% of Americans that don't even use their health insurance, even if they're covered, the healthy population, you have competition to keep the prices down. What they did under that law was they put us all in the same pool. So now the healthy people are actually paying all the expenses, and to even it up, it's a bad business model. And these subsidies, I tell people all the time because they want to get the whip in between this. Do you agree with them or disagree with them? That doesn't matter to me. It's the policy debate that you're talking about. But as a member, I look at it and I say, okay, these are enhanced tax credits. The tax credits that were already in the Obamacare law are still going to be there.
That's right.
What's happening here is the enhanced tax credits that were created during an emergency called the pandemic by Democrats that they set to expire at the end of this year. They expected they wouldn't be necessary. But what you've done, Jeff, is completely distorted the marketplace because they took the income caps off. That's what the enhanced did. And now you have the taxpayer, the federal government, which is the taxpayer, paying 100% of a couple of the levels of this. Why is that important? We want those people to have coverage, and they're the ones that need it. But there's no incentive for the insurance company to give you a good price because the federal government, the taxpayers, going to pay it all. So, look, we got to make sure these people are covered. I've heard some of our colleagues talk about you got to have a step process, right? Whatever you want to call it, because you can't have this shock thing. But I think we got to look at the insurance industry very close. And I think Republicans and Democrats got to start being honest with each other about, wait a second, who's making all the money in this thing? Because it's not the consumer. It's not the person who needs the health care. And by the way, it's not the person delivering the services usually. Yep. The insurance companies seem to have a lot of money.
Well, the way that I describe our healthcare system sometimes, too, is it's sort of like an engine that's leaking a bunch of oil. It's not working very well. The solution isn't just to keep pouring more oil, more money, more federal government subsidies into the engine. It's to fix the engine, fix that healthcare engine. And that's what we need to be doing
You're right,
long term.
But you just took us back to the CR. I mean, they tell us it's about health care. Well, they filed an alternative proposal in the Senate, Jeff. What they want is $1.5 trillion in new spending, and they want to give illegals taxpayer-funded health care. And by the way, this is important to your district and your part of the world. They want to eliminate the $50 billion rural health care fund that we created.
That's exactly right. And, I was on CNN last night talking about just this issue, and the Democrats try to portray this as they're asking for just an enhanced premium tax credits in order to get the government back open. If you read the 68-page bill that was introduced in the Senate, the appropriations bill that the Democrats are demanding, the enhanced premium tax credits take up 1.5 pages in that 68-page ask that the Democrats have.
Yeah, including money to Iraq for Sesame Street in Iraq.
That's right. So anyway, non-starter, up and down the line. I'll tell you, from leadership all the way down to us folks down in the rank and file, what the Senate's trying to do and what Democrats are trying to do as a condition of opening the government is just a simple non-starter. Now, you've lived through two major shutdowns in Congress, 2018 and now 2025. What makes this one different, politically or behind the scenes?
Well, I started out by telling you no one wins in a shutdown, and two, Democrats who are responsible for this one may have wanted to read the book, which we wrote.
Yeah, tell me about that. What do you mean by that? I got what you were saying, but for the folks back home in Minnesota and Colorado,
shutdowns don't work, and not the way that people think. They think they're putting up a fight. Look, and Republicans have been guilty of this in the past. What Chuck Schumer is doing right now is he's appeasing a small but extremely vocal, loud, volatile group of radicals in his party. Radicals who made it clear after we kept the government open 6 months ago that they're going after him. They're going after the minority leader in the House if they don't put up a fight. I mean, we were told that last Saturday they had a Hate America rally here in Washington, D.C. They want to call it a No Kings rally, but all you have to do is watch it. I mean, they're carrying around their Hamas flags. They've got signs advocating for the assassination of a president. It really is disturbing, but it's a very small group. And they're the ones who have made it clear, if you open the government, you're going to get hammered. One of the anonymous Democrats said, I don't want to get the political guillotine, right? And another one said, well, here's the calculus. The calculus that John Ossoff, for instance, has to make in Georgia is, I vote to open the government, and I get absolutely destroyed by this small group, and I'm not able to raise another dollar in small dollar donations from across the country. He says, or I just keep voting to keep it closed, and I'll raise $3 million in small dollar online donations. That is not the calculus that should be used. It should be, how am I helping the people who elected me to serve them? They're not looking at it that way. So you asked me, mistake, I think, when Republicans did it. I understood what they were trying to do, and who knows, maybe back the 2013 one, when I was raising my family and running my business, maybe I was one of those people out there going, yeah, fight it. But then you get here and you realize, no, the best way to do this, one, you keep the federal government running. It's too important for our national defense. It's too important for our economy. It's too important for our state economies. I mean, you can find out from the Council of Economic Advisors how much they're estimating Colorado is losing with every week this goes on, and how much it'll lose in a month. I mean, our state, it's close to, I think it's close to $1 billion that we're going to lose in a month from our economy. That's not the answer. The answer is you got to win at the ballot box, and then you got to work with the other side. And in this one, they want to claim Republicans aren't working with them. Well, I think everybody can see who's not working with anyone. These guys, if Donald Trump says yes, they say no. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah. I'm talking with the whip of the House of Representatives, Tom Emmer here. Now, Tom, one of the things I hear from my constituents, and maybe you hear from your constituents, is about returning to regular order when it comes to budgeting. What does that mean? And walk us through what's supposed to happen when it comes to budgeting. Before the shutdown, we were working on toward the regular budgeting and appropriations process. Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, this has been going on for 30 years, and I would tell you. First off, up until the early to mid-'90s, what would happen here is You pass 12 appropriations bills through the House Appropriations Committee and through the Senate Appropriations Committee. You pass them off the floor, and then where there are differences, you have conference committees, but with Democrats and Republicans from both chambers working on the bill, and you'd come to a resolution. As Paul Ryan told me many years ago when I said, how did it ever get this bad? He said, we used to have knockdown, drag-out fights in campaigns, and then we come back here and get the people's work done. And he says that's just broken down to the point where I think Republicans, it probably cost Kevin McCarthy his job, right? Because the frustration that has been growing amongst all of us, this is what I get frustrated with. I think people outside of this place think we don't care. This is what the fight is internally, getting back to regular order, passing your appropriations bills, conferencing with the Senate, and then moving forward with the next year. It's been broken for 3 decades, and it got worse and worse. Republicans, Democrats, it didn't matter. These executive orders literally have become the soup du jour of how you run the government. Doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Democrat in the White House. But what has happened is we have become an imperial presidency because the House has literally abdicated its responsibility over the last 30 years to control the purse strings. We don't even hold these executive agencies accountable. And the way you do that is you take their money away. If you don't have a normal appropriations process, regular order, you're not going to be able to do that. And guess what? If you can't do that, they don't fear Congress at all. So the goal has been, ever since Republicans took back the majority with Kevin McCarthy in charge to now under Mike Johnson, it's the same goal. We are trying to return to a regular order appropriations process. We're not there yet. I mean, this is a lot of institutional memory that has to be relearned. But we were getting there. That's why the extension on this short-term CR was necessary. We have a conference committee, Jeff, I think it's the first time since 2018 that there is a motion by the House and the Senate in the second week of September to go to conference on 3 of the 12 bills. Those bills would have been closed out immediately. Very minor things left to do. They were ready to go. There's another 3 that are in the queue that once those were closed on, they were going to move right to those. The goal is to get these 12 bills done and then keep moving back to a regular order appropriations process. And for whatever reason, well, we know why. Because they're afraid of their radical base on the far left. And so they think this is the only way that they can save their jobs. Chuck Schumer is kind of like an aging athlete, right? He is not going to have a challenger in a primary, Jeff, because he won't be running again. This is his last hurrah. And why is he doing it then? Because he is scared to death of not being the Democrat leader in the Senate through the end of his career. That's what he's afraid of, is losing his job before he announces he's not running again.
And the rest of us have to pay the price.
Yeah.
Now, Tom, let's talk a little bit about Minnesota's 6th congressional district. Tell the folks that listen to this podcast a little bit about your district and what makes you most proud about your district.
Minnesota's 6th district sits on the from Wisconsin to the Dakotas. It's on the north side of the Twin Cities, if people are familiar with that. It encompasses 6 counties. They are ex-urban counties. So I live in a place called Delano, Minnesota, which is roughly 40 miles from downtown Minneapolis. I'm right on the edge of the Hennepin County border, which is the county that Minneapolis is located in. From my home, it goes 1 county west of Wisconsin. I used to represent all the way to the Wisconsin border before the last redistricting. Now 1 county in between me and the border went to Pete Stauber from the 8th. The other side of my district juts up into central Minnesota. People who are listening might be familiar with cities like St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Of course.
St. John's University, St. Ben's University, etc. It goes up into that area, and then it drops all the way down to the west side of the Twin Cities, and it hits the Minnesota River on the south. So 6 counties. What am I most proud of the district? The people, well, I'm most proud of the fact that 60% of the ground is still in ag production.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was
I'm
that
most
high.
proud of the fact that in addition to the ag production, the innovation and the growth that has been experienced in not just places like Blaine, which is closer to the cities, but we just broke ground on a factory in Sartell, Minnesota, that is going to manufacture magnets without precious metals. They literally have developed a formula which is going to be a game changer, and magnets are in everything. I don't know how many people listening understand every single thing. Your phone has magnets. Everything has magnets in them. Engines all have magnets in them. Extremely valuable. But these guys are literally going to take iron, they're going to rust it or oxidize it, and then they take the oxidized iron and they do some formula with it, and they can make magnets all the way from the ones that are the size of the head of a tack to one that's bigger than a brick. So,
wow. Okay, and that will help us strategically against China with their chokehold on some of those rare earth minerals and their, yes, that's terrific. All right, lightning round. You are a huge hockey fan. Are the Minnesota Wild helping you decompress or just adding to the stress?
Well, I'm fortunate. I have a family member who works with them, so I get to watch. They haven't been as good as your Avs yet.
Yeah, I think the Avs are first.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well. They got beat by the Mammoth the other night, but the Wild are 3-4, and we got some time yet. We got some time.
So how are you feeling about the hockey season so far? It's still early, right?
This is the best time of year. You got to admit, you've got World Series baseball going on, and the hockey season has begun before the white stuff starts raining from the sky, and we got to shovel and do all that great stuff.
So besides hockey, what's something else that you enjoy doing, either with Jackie or with the family, or what else helps you decompress?
Well, you just hit the number one thing I like to do is just hang out with her. It's kind of funny. You raise 7 kids. We were talking about this.
How long have you been married?
We're going to be 40 years next July.
Wow.
But we've been together for that'll be 42 by the time we get there, almost 43. It's funny. We were talking about the fact, because we've got friends who have long relationships as well. It's a lot of fun to think about the fact that you can raise 7 kids, and you know how punishing that is at times, Jeff. It's tough, right? Somebody's always got to be up. Somebody's always got to be cleaning up. Somebody's always got to be, bringing home food. But you get through all that, and it's just the two of you. It's one of the greatest things in the world, that you can still hang out together and you can make each other laugh. It's fun.
Well, Jackie's pretty amazing, and Barbara, my wife, is amazing. And I think both of our wives, we married up, and, the great adventure of family life is what
I usually tell people, Tom Emmer married better than Jackie Emmer did. That's it.
Now, Republican Conference Chairwoman Lisa McClain was on my podcast 2 weeks ago, and she once said that she went 42 hours without sleep on congressional issues. Have you ever beaten that?
Oh, the both of the votes, the one at the end of May and then the one July 4th week for the Working Families Tax Cut Act, which we used to call the Big Beautiful Bill. Both of those were 45 hours plus.
Yeah, well,
I will tell you, the first one, I'm 64 years old. That was like, this is not what I signed up for, man. This is what I used to do when I was in college, and I had a term paper due the next day. Not what I expected to be doing here. The second one, the first one, I found myself at times like in my office, and we were talking about something, and it'd be like that old guy that falls asleep at your meeting and then suddenly comes to and does whatever. The second time, I had more energy than I knew what to do with. It was like that thing was more fun. Just doing something that no one thought we could get done.
Yep.
And just pushing right through it, knowing that we were going to get there. It was just a matter of when. But I will admit that as soon as it was over, it was like trying a case for a week.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to see anybody after that for a few days.
I will tell you, I remember just before we passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut out of the House, I was on a national TV interview, and I was asked, do you think you can get it done? I said, I have confidence in our leadership team that we're going to get this done. I think we will. I'm cautiously optimistic, and you guys helped us get across the finish line, and that was a great win, not only for Colorado's 3rd District, but Minnesota's 6th in our country as well. Now, Tom, one thing that I wanted to say, you are a great leader in our party, and you once wrote me something. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to read one of the texts that you sent me. I had, you were talking about working with leadership, and you're the guy that I go to if I have an issue, a tough vote that's coming up or something that's concerning for me. I reach out to you, and you do a great job of working with the majority leader and the speaker and letting them know some of the concerns that rank and file members like I have. I once reached out to you earlier this year. I can't remember what the vote was, but it was a difficult vote or a bill that I was getting on that was going to cause some heartburn for me, or it might not necessarily have been popular. It was good for my district, but there were some other folks in our conference that might not have liked it as much. And I give you a heads up about that bill, because that's the one thing you've always told us is give me a heads up, no surprises. But this is what you wrote back to me. You said, "One thing I live by is this: do the right thing for the right reasons, and you will always be able to defend yourself at home. Oh yeah, and as my dad told me, you better like what's looking back at you in the morning every day."
It's true.
So that's the kind of person that we have. That's a little behind the scenes look for you, those of you back home, of what we have in our whip Tom Emmer and what he's telling rank and file members like me. And that's the right message. Do the right thing by your district, and let the chips fall where they may, which I think is a great and awesome perspective to have. And it's also a great way for you to show leadership for new members like me. And my last question brings us back to the big issue of the day. Whip Emmer, what's your message to people in Minnesota and Colorado and across the country who are frustrated not just with the Democratic shutdown, but also the uncertainty that it's bringing?
Hang in there. It's going to get better. I mean, this country has gone through major upheavals in our history. It seems like every 40 or 50 years. We are in one of those growth rings right now. It may seem at times like it's hopeless, and it doesn't look like this great experiment that's on its way to its 250th anniversary. It may seem at times like that's just not possible, but I'm going to tell you, I'm bullish. The cup is half full. It's not half empty. And I think what you're seeing right now, Donald J. Trump is transforming not just the Republican Party by opening it up to a whole bunch of new people, because our policies are better, and he's a great communicator when it comes to that. But it's not just that he communicates like politicians have done over years. He performs. And as people feel it affecting them, improving their lives, making them feel more safe, giving them hope that their kids are actually going to have a better life, an opportunity for a better life than they've had, I think it bodes well for the country, not just Republicans. And I think what's going to happen, we've got some colleagues on the other side of the aisle. They are Democrats, right? But they're Democrats that actually want to have the debate that I used to have with my grandfather, who was a proud Democrat, and that is, okay, it's the size and scope of government versus the right of an individual to self-determine. And where is that line between those two things, right? I think we're going back there, Jeff. I think you're going to see when we win in the midterms, I think you're going to see a lot of these more centrist Democrats who want to get things done. By the way, many of them are in districts that Donald Trump won. Right now, people ask me, why aren't they helping you right now? I said, why would they? Republicans in the past have never performed like we've been performing right now. And two, they're worried about the midterms because they don't want this Ocasio-Cortez or all these other crazies on the far left attacking them. So we win the midterms. I think you're going to see those people start to work with Republicans again. I think you're going to have a renaissance of the great experiment as we go forward. We came out of it in the 60s. We came out of it after the 40s. We have survived every time, and it's been better. And I think better days are ahead.
My guest today has been Majority Whip for the United States House of Representatives, Congressman Tom Emmer. Tom, thanks so much for joining Hurd in the House.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for tuning in to Hurd in the House. For more on today's episode and updates from Colorado's 3rd District, check out my YouTube channel at Rep Jeff Hurd. That's REPJEFFHURD. Follow along on social media and subscribe to my newsletter and stay connected. Until next time, you heard it here first.